radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Good evening, Fade to Black. Today is Thursday, August 31st, 2023, last day of the month. Busy month for me around here. So this is my first weekend off coming up in what seems like months. But man, am I looking forward to this weekend. And did you see the blue moon last night? I went out after the show, and my backyard was lit up like it was 12 noon. That was spectacular. All right. So, yeah, it's the weekend. Here we go. Tonight, Dr. Sam Osmanagich is with us tonight, live from Bosnia. We're going to be talking about the Bosnian Pyramids and pyramids in general and his research into that. I'll get back to that in a second. And last night, earlier today on the news, I mentioned this. Last night on the show, we had Michael Oeming on, and one of the greatest comic book artists in the world. And he does conspiracy. Nobody does it better than Michael Oeming. And he just drew the new Fade to Black T-shirt. That's his design. Help support the show and get your Fade to Black T-shirts. We have the classic, right? And we have Michael Oeming's new one. Both of them are available, and the links for them are below. I was emailing today with a couple of you Fadernauts about classic versus the new official Fadernaut shirt. And I got to say, one of the, I don't want to say who it was. One of them says, no offense to Oeming, I love the shirt, but I want a classic. It was really funny. So anyway, both shirts are available and shipping. So go and get your T-shirts now. The links are below. All right, let's get straight to it. Live from Bosnia tonight, Dr. Sam Osmanagich is with us. And just rolls off the tongue. Osmanagich just rolls off the tongue. Live from Bosnia, we're going to be talking about the Bosnian Pyramids. We're going to talk about the possibility of pyramids being energy devices, amplifier machines, ancient technology, all of that and much more. He is a scientist. He's a megalithic and pyramid researcher. He discovered the Bosnian Pyramids and a network of prehistorical underground tunnels in central Bosnia. He has been principal investigator since 2005, holds a PhD on Mayan pyramids as well. He has authored 18 books. And I got to say, his work has resulted in a new definition on pyramids as energy amplifiers and possibly even communication devices. And I'm very excited about the show. It's one of my favorite subjects. All of you know that. And I would like to welcome for the first time all the way from Bosnia, Dr. Sam Osmanagich. There he is right there with his hat. He's got his hat on. How you doing, Sam? How you doing, man?
I'm fine. Good evening and good morning from Bosnia. In our case, it is already Friday. It's 4 a.m. here in Bosnia. I'm very happy to be with you.
So you're a time traveler, too, as well, is what you're saying. You're a time traveler.
There you go.
I was, you and I were talking before the show, and I just got back from the UK. Very straight, and when I travel internationally, there's a weird thing that goes on, and you don't realize it until you get into the moment. But you head to the Middle East, you head to Europe, depending on where you're at, right? You're there the next day, on the same day, right? You fly on Sunday, but here it's still Sunday, but you're arriving there on Monday. And then when you come back, I flew back, 14-hour flight, right? I flew back, I went to Germany first, so I flew back out of Frankfurt. 14-hour flight with time changes and a tailwind. According to my watch, it was 3 hours. It was a 3-hour flight. And that's time traveling, man. It's really bizarre. Do you think, let me ask you this. Why can't you just get on a plane and fly backwards? You know what I mean? Go against and then end up a couple of days prior. Right? Or what if you went the other way? No. Say you're going back. It's your birthday, right? Can you celebrate your birthday like 8 times?
And yes, you keep celebrating as you are moving to the east all the time, or to the west.
Yeah, right. Well, if you move to the west, you're celebrating you want to go
west. You go west, and then it's day after day.
Yeah. And then wind up back. So if you did that, this messes with my head. And I know it's so basic, it can't be true. But if you did that and you flew all the way around the world backwards, celebrating your birthday, and then you come back to where you started, then what day would it be?
And then you meet your grandchildren.
Yes, right.
They ask you, who are you?
I meet myself. Yeah. Oh, man. Okay. So pyramids are my favorite subject. And before I go and jump into this, because there is so much to discuss, and we started talking about it before the show, actually, is this. I got to throw out the softball. I have always been interested in pyramids at North and South America. It doesn't matter, Giza and what have you. When I was a little kid, probably had to do with like movies, scary movies about mummies or whatever, and King Tut's tomb when I was a kid. And the fascination is there, but I think it's in our DNA, right? We all kind of originate from that area. And I think that there is something there, right? Something residual that connects us. For you, what got your start into this?
You know, when I think about it, it is the 21st century. Why would somebody dedicate his life, in my case, decades of my life, to the subject of pyramids? Well, with the discovery of the Bosnian pyramids, I realized why. Because the knowledge that we have from the ancients can be and should be applied in our civilization to help us. You know, you mentioned that I got my PhD about the Mayan pyramids. And while I lived in Houston for 25 years, I would fly very often to Mexico, Honduras, El Salvador, Belize, and Guatemala, investigating Mayan pyramids. That was really amazing. Then I expanded my research to pyramids in Peru, 300 of them, Bolivia, Acapena Pyramid Complex. Even in the US, we have Cahokia pyramids, they call them Cahokia Mounds, in the national park in the Illinois. 250 pyramids in China. Then amazing pyramid in Cambodia. It's called Koh Ker Pyramid in the jungle. And our friend Dr. Danny Hillman discovered 28,500 years old pyramid in Western Java, Indonesia. Egypt, you mentioned. You know, in Egypt, when you read non-scientific sites like Wikipedia or Encyclopedia Britannica, they claim 118 pyramids. However, I have personally investigated 155 pyramids. Nubian pyramids in northern Sudan, 224 of them. Canary Islands, Mauritius, 7 pyramids. Even Australia, there was a pyramid called the Gympie Pyramid. Unfortunately, Australian government destroyed it last year.
Right.
So obviously, the world of the past was the world of pyramids. And one amazing thing, the oldest pyramids in China, in Egypt, in Bosnia, in Bolivia, in Mexico, are at the same time the biggest and the most superior. In most cases, built by granite, limestone, sandstone. How is that possible? We don't see the evolution there. So logical conclusion for me was that the knowledge about the pyramids has been brought to us. Now, by who? That's another question. So, as you can see, I've been traveling, investigating, and when I was ready, back in 2005, I came to my home, country of Bosnia, to visit the local museum in this small town of Visoko. But what really caught my attention was this, everybody called it a natural hill, because it was covered by soil, vegetation, and forest. But I was looking at the shape, 4 sides, 4 triangular faces, 4 corners, the same slope from bottom to the top. I took compass, and the compass showed me that those 4 sides perfectly match the cardinal points, east, west, north, and south. And I knew that that's how the pyramids were built in China, Egypt, Mexico, and other countries. So back in 2005, I got permission from the local Ministry of Culture to do some preliminary research. Everything I did, geological core drilling, archaeological trenches, analysis. They were telling me anomalies, anomalies, anomalies. I wrote the book, and I announced to the world that the pyramids in Europe were discovered. And that was the beginning of the story, Jimmy. And in the meantime, in the last 18 years, it has become the most active archaeological site in the world.
Okay, now let's. I'm going to stay right here on the Bosnian pyramids first. My interest in it has been since you made the discovery. I've been following it very, very closely. And you have faced your share of critics on this, okay?
A lot.
Yeah, a lot, more than your share. But justifiably so, because you have to remain objective. Other researchers, you can't go in with both feet. And certainly a discovery like this is an extraordinary, it's a game-changing one. It's a history-changing situation. But I want to ask you about that, how you dealt with the criticism and keeping the fight going, because you're not, you can't give up. You're not entitled to. We're not going to let you do that.
When I started the project back in 2005, I first announced the hypothesis that we have pyramids in Bosnia. The whole cultural establishment of this small country, historians, archaeologists, geologists, museum curators, they were all against me, media against me. However, I started excavation, I got permission, I established non-profit NGO under the name Archaeological Park Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun Foundation, which was registered for archaeology and science. And everything we did, we've been accumulating scientific arguments. We started digging 3-4 feet below the soil. We started discovering rectangular blocks, square blocks, first row, second row, third row, fourth row. We analyzed the material. It was an artificial concrete, better quality than what we can make today. Our concretes in 21st century, when it comes to hardness, from 10 to 60 megapascals. Here in Bosnia, from 74 to 155, more durable and better quality. And then when it comes to the side orientation, so far we thought that the best orientation is the northern face of the Great Pyramid of Egypt. The error from the perfect cosmic north, 0 degrees and 3 minutes. Kafre, the second largest, 0 degrees, 3 minutes. Mykerinos, 0 degrees, 18 minutes. Bosnia, 0 degrees, 0 minutes, and 12 seconds. When it comes to height, the Great Pyramid of Egypt, 147 meters, 450 feet. The Bosnian, according to the LiDAR technology, this is, the state-of-the-art technology when it comes to the heights, we have 368 meters, 1,200 feet, 2.5 times higher than the Great Pyramid of Egypt. In the case of Egyptian pyramids, we have limestone and granite. Bosnian pyramids, we have 20 million tons of concrete. And then when it comes to the age, well, that was the most important. We have done in the last 18 years, 28 radiocarbon dating, uranium thorium analysis, and luminescence analysis. This is what's available today in the world. And the age, 29,200 years, plus minus 400 years. So we go back for 30,000 years. Now imagine to come to the cultural establishment, especially to the archaeologists, and they are the most conservative scientists, and to tell them, hey, we have the first pyramids in Europe. In Europe, pyramids. Secondly, the biggest on the planet. Number 3, the most precise orientation in the world. Number 4, the best quality concrete. Number 5, the oldest pyramids. Number 6, the most extensive underground tunnel network. And what happened? Everybody started attacking me. First from Bosnia, then Croatia, Serbia, France, Germany, UK, Poland, US, both mainstream and some of the independent researchers. What was their problem? Hey, I work in some remote Bosnian hills, as they claim, and everybody wanted me to stop the project. I think that was something very, very important there.
But now, I just interrupted you, Sam. Go ahead.
And, when I think about the pyramids, the problem with all this research around the planet is that archaeologists and Egyptologists, they jealously guard their investigation. They don't open it to the other sciences, and that's the key problem. I know how they teach the kids in the schools about the pyramids. They say, hey, find the pieces of ceramics and primitive tools, and you're going to explain the pyramids. Hey, that's impossible. So what we have done, we have opened the project to interdisciplinary scientific research. On one hand, we do have classical sciences like archaeology, Egyptology, geology, biology, paleontology. Then high-tech, georadar, satellite, geothermal. Then datings, as I mentioned, radiocarbon, luminescence, uranium thorium analysis. Then experts in energy phenomena. And that was the key. Physicists, electrical engineers, sound engineers, telecommunication engineers, people with the scientific instruments. If you can measure, you can scientifically prove. Then to the medical doctors, then to the spiritual scientists, people who can feel the energies. And after 18 years, this is what I can tell you. Archaeologically speaking, we have complex of 6 pyramids: Sun, Moon, Dragon, Earth, Love, and the 6th pyramid. We have tumulus complex. Tumulus is, of course, the artificial conical hill. We have a network of underground tunnels, and we have so far discovered entrances to 6 of those tunnels, clearing more than 2 miles of prehistorical tunnels, and we suspect there are at least 60 miles of those underground tunnels. So far, we discovered entrances to 2 levels and most probably 7 levels. So archaeologically speaking, this is huge. But when it comes to the science and energy, we realize that pyramids amplify existing natural energy sources. What does that mean? Below the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, there is a huge iron plate. Iron generates electromagnetic field. The pyramids pulls this electromagnetism, amplifying it. How do we know? Because we have measured at the base, at the top. At the top, the signal is 50 times stronger. Secondly, below the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, we have underground water flow. Water moves, releases negative ions, very beneficial for our health. The pyramid amplifies the negative ions, and the concentrations in our tunnels are the biggest on the planet. How do we know? Well, we have this instrument. It's called air ion counter. And I take it everywhere I travel, to South Africa, Jordan, Egypt, America, Germany. In Bosnian pyramids, unlike in the forests or other pyramids where the concentrations are 1,000, 2,000, or 500 negative ions per cubic centimeter, in Bosnia, 50,000, and in the winters, 200,000 negative ions per cubic centimeter. And then we have a lot of quartz crystal, which we discovered during excavation process on the pyramids, in the tunnels. Why is that important? Quartz crystal amplifies the energy. Quartz crystal transforms one form of the energy, electromagnetism, through the piezo electrical effect to the ultrasound. And we measure 28 kilohertz frequency of the ultrasound. It's called levitation frequency. So time after time, we realized we have electromagnetic field. We have original Schumann resonance, 7.83 hertz. We have the best frequency of electromagnetic field, 28 kilohertz. It is natural frequency of our planet. When you amplify what's coming from our mother planet, of course it will be beneficial. So pyramids are energy amplifiers. And then logically we come to the question, what can you use this energy for, especially today? Can you use it at all? Yes, you can. On the very top of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, we have determined that there was an energy beam, which is 28 kilohertz, which is electrical in nature, which is continuous because we measure it in the spring and summer and fall and winter, and it starts at 12 feet radius, it expands to 70 feet, coming back to 12, 70, 12, 70, 12, it's going up. Now, when we measure the strength of the signal at the top, then 10 feet higher, another 10 feet, another 10 feet, we realized that the strength of the signal is going stronger and stronger. Not very logical, but nothing in Bosnia is logical. Why am I saying it's not logical? Because it would be logical to conclude closer to the source, the pyramid, the signal should be stronger, but no, in our case, it's getting stronger and stronger as it moves away. In science, this phenomenon is called the scalar waves. And guess what? Who investigating scalar waves? The brilliant mind of Nikola Tesla 125 years ago. And he concluded that these subtle energies, they move quicker than the speed of light. So our conclusion, the first potential purpose of pyramid energy would be the communication device. And a matter of fact, when Nikola Tesla built his famous Wardenclyffe Tower in the state of New York, after a few experiments, he was writing in his diary, I found a way to transport unlimited quantities of energy, thousands of horsepowers, between two planets, regardless of their distance. And the frequency he was using was 28 kilohertz, exactly the one that we measure on top of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. So it is very exciting. And if we talk about the purpose, if I may continue, the second potential purpose of the pyramid energy would be to protect what is the most precious to us, and that would be our health. We have noticed people going to the Bosnian pyramid tunnels. They breathe very well. As a matter of fact, deeper you go, you breathe better and better, and only one entrance, which is at the same time exit. How is that possible? Well, because of very high concentration of negative ions, they clear the atmosphere from dust, from smog, from, microbes, and microbes are viruses, bacteria, fungi, and so on. So people with the respiratory problems, for example, asthma, they go to the tunnels a few times. When they come back, they don't need inhalators, air pumps, no more. People with a high blood pressure, it gets normalized. People with a high glucose, high sugar in the blood, it drops for so many points. People with the very serious diseases, they come for 10 days. They enter the tunnels 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the afternoon. After 10 days, they show revolutionary improvement in their health. Why is that happening? Again, we have measured. This is what we do. We do science. And it is a result of 10 energy phenomena. Very briefly, the first 5 is the absence of all harmful radiations. The first one, the cosmic radiations coming from the above. In the tunnels, 100 feet below the ground, no harmful cosmic radiations. No natural radioactivity coming from underground. We measure it during Geiger-Miller counter. Number 3, no geopathogenic radiations. Number 4, no signal for the cell phone. Number 5, no signal for the Wi-Fi. Without the harmful radiations, Jimmy, it means that our body cells don't have enemies. They can start doing their job. What is their job? To fix the problems in our body, to start the regeneration process. Somebody has high blood pressure, somebody has tumor, somebody has mental problems. Regeneration is happening in the tunnels. When we add the 5 energies that we can measure also, the best frequency of electromagnetic field, 28 kilohertz, levitation frequency of the ultrasound, original Schumann resonance, bring us back to the balance, negative ions, high level of organ energy, we got the safest and the healthiest place on the planet, the Bosnian Pyramid tunnels. So our second conclusion, the pyramid energy was used to protect our health, to prevent problems, or to heal problems, or if we get lucky, for the rejuvenation process. So you see how it becomes so logical, communication, health. Number 3, if I may, water. We have discovered 5 tunnels with the water. Compare it to our water. Our water that we drink at homes or bottled water, they say there are no viruses, bacteria. Indeed, but why? Because they've been treated by chlorine. In some countries, they add fluorides, both poisons, traces of heavy metals, traces of plastic. What we drink is energetically dead. The water in the Bosnian Pyramid tunnels, energetically alive. It has not been treated. pH is perfect, 7.45. That's pH of our blood. It vibrates high. When we sent it to the late Dr. Masaru Emoto 8 years ago, it showed that the molecular structure is hexagonal in shape. Why hexagon? It's the most powerful geometrical shape when it comes to the energy, and crystal-like structure. In other words, energetically alive. It's a happy water. It vibrates high, and we should not forget, we are what we drink. Number 4, pyramid energy improves the molecular structure of the food. Number 5, it improves our immunity. The key word today is not a vaccine, it's immunity. Number 6, it improves our bioenergy field, or we call it auric field. We have measured, Jimmy, in the last 9 years, 5,450 people before they entered the tunnels and after they came back. Conclusion, their auric field is improved. Number 7, our chakras, 7 chakras, because of the stress, because of the fear. When people comes, they are in distress, you can see that their chakras, they are left and right, they are closed. But once they visit the tunnels, the chakras, they are coming back to the balance and they open up. So energy can flow better. And so on and so forth. So what we do here in Bosnia, we bring the change of the narrative about the pyramids. They were not built for one dead body, that one of the king or rulers or pharaoh, but they were built to serve the communities of living people. And they are meant to last forever. And now it makes sense that somebody moved millions of tons of material to build energy complex that will really last and serve forever.
You had said earlier, I feel like I'm reading Pyramid Power, that book from like 1972. You remember that?
Pat Flanagan, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good book. You mentioned 29,000 years old, and when you start to drop dates like that, you know what those anthropologists do. They freak out. No, stop. But that's a pretty big number, and I am convinced that there are sites around the world you can put Göbekli Tepe to the side. That's been carbon dated to 10,000, 11,000 BC. It's probably much, much older, and you have Karahan, Tepe, and so forth. But 29,000 years is pushing these dates back. Where did you come up with that number? Is that from carbon dating? And if it is, what did you use for the organic material for the carbon dating.
Yes.
And is there anything else that would suggest a date of 29,000 years?
Yes.
And I'm asking, 29,000 years ago, was there a cosmic or astrological consideration too as well 29,000 years ago?
Yes. These are good questions. Göbekli Tepe, you are right. Dr. Klaus Schmidt, which I met twice before he died, he did 4 radiocarbon dating. They showed 10,000 BC, which is about 12,000 before present. However, when you do radiocarbon, it's not calibrated date. You need to add about 14%. So the real age of Göbekli Tepe is 13,600 based on the organic material, which was on the top of those megalithic blocks. So Dr. Schmidt told me probably the age is between 15 and 18,000 years. However, you read at Wikipedia, 11,600. The historians, they don't want anything that belongs to the Paleolithic times, older than 12,000 years. So what they did, they basically falsified the information. In our case, once we started removing the soil from the top of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, we realized that we have concrete blocks. And one place we found 4 layers of concrete blocks. Between the first and second layer, we discovered fossilized leaves. How the leaves got there? Well, obviously, somebody was pouring the concrete, first layer, second layer, third layer. The wind was blowing, bringing the leaves, and then they placed the final layer of concrete. So those leaves, being like in the sandwich between 2 layers of concrete, they belong to the original time of the construction. So we sent it to several institutes for radiocarbon dating. We have Uppsala in Sweden, we have Kiel in Germany, we have Gliwice in Poland, we had Kiev in Ukraine a long time before the war, and we got this date of 29,200 years. And we did a few more organic materials, like from the tunnels. We discovered also pieces of wood, which is also organic material. Bones, unfortunately, we did not find. But basically, organic materials you can date. So 29,200 years, again, this is radiocarbon date. When you add 14%, like Dr. Paul Laviolette, astrophysicist, famous, unfortunately late physicist, he realized that the true age, the calendar age of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun is 33,600 years. Now, the logical question is, if they teach us in schools that human history of advanced societies is only about 6,000-7,000 years old, Sumer, Babylon, Akkad, Assyria, Hittite, ancient Egypt, India, China, what was happening more than 30,000 years? According to the, like you said, anthropologists, historians, archaeologists, nothing. That was the era of the primitive caveman. Well, wait a minute. Do they read about the revolutionary discoveries in the last 20 years? Göbekli Tepe, Karahan Tepe, and other sites in southeastern Turkey being just one of the sites. How about Yonaguni monuments on the bottom of the Pacific floor? More than 12,000 years. How about the real age of biggest Egyptian pyramids? Not 4,500 years, but for sure more than 12,000 years. How about Machu Picchu? 4 civilizations, the oldest one, 54,000 years. How about Teotihuacan, Mexico? The oldest pyramids there, for sure, more than 12,000 years. Well, in the case of the Bosnian pyramids, I think it perfectly matched what was happening in Egypt and in Sumeria. The most important Egyptian documents actually is not in Egypt. For me, the most important is the so-called Turin King List. It's a papyrus, papyrus which is 1.70 meter long, 45 centimeters wide, and it is in Egyptian Museum in Turin, Italy. It got there in the 1820s. After one auction, they got it to the Turin, which was part of the France at the time. And today it's on display. When you enter this museum, to your left, the first huge display shows this papyrus. In the papyrus, we have 11 columns with the 3 eras for the Egyptian rulers. The first era, gods. The second era, demigods. The third era, sons of gods. Well, sons of gods, their era started 5,100 years ago with the King Menes, who united Upper and Lower Egypt, and these were human rulers, 5,100 years. And they would live and rule, 20 years or 30 years, Ramesses II, 67 years. Era before that, demigods or semi-gods, they would live and rule 200 years, 300 years each. And the era of gods, they would rule 1,000 years each. And it says in the papyrus that the kingdom of heaven came to kingdom of earth to rule. When? 42,500 years ago. 40,000 years ago. And they were ruling 35,000, 30,000 years, until, about 12,000 years back. In Sumeria, almost the same scenario. There is a Sumerian king list. It's a huge stela. It's a stone megalith where the names of the rulers with the dates of the rule were carved in the stone. And the first gods came 273,000 years ago. 273,000 years ago, and they were ruling, the first kings, they were ruling 30 years, 30,000 years, 30,000 years each. Alajar, for example, 28,800 years. So the history is obviously much more interesting than what they teach us in schools.
Now, why do you think? Because the evidence for something much older, okay, you and I both know the general rule, the dogma, 3000 BC. That's it. Nothing before. Don't talk to me about it. Right? Okay, so that's the rule. We now know that that's been blown out of the water. And it's not just a Sumerian king's list. It's not just the writings and the history of Egypt, but it's every culture around the world. And look at India, how deep they go and how far back it goes. And China, that is some ancient history that pushes back so far. But they just don't want this discussed. They don't want it researched, and I don't understand why. It's cool, first off, and second, it's our history. Why would they deny us of that? And I think that not only that, of course, that we should know, but if we want to research something and if we want to think about it, we should be free to do that. And they just won't let us do it. And the question is why? What are they so afraid of, Sam?
You are absolutely right. What's on the planets? It's the cultural heritage that belongs to all of us. We should know about that knowledge. Instead, you have the governments, or to be more precise, elites who hide the information. They hide them in China, they hide them in Egypt, they hide them in Peru, in Mexico, and elsewhere. They are all unlike the Bosnian Pyramid project. We are the most open project. Well, we are not run by the government, museums, departments of archaeology, but by the non-profit NGO. Well, why do they do that? 50 years ago, Encyclopedia Britannica. Why do I mention this encyclopedia? Because, based on this encyclopedia, all other encyclopedias are written in Germany, in France, in the US, and this is the base for the educational system. So we're talking about the English elites who, for the last couple of hundred years, they've been writing our history. Those who control the history control the present. So why would they claim 50 years ago that humanity is only 3,500 years old? And then 30 years ago, they changed that to 5,000. And then today, they are saying 6,500. And we know that they are wrong because they want to keep everything in the last civilizational cycle, last 10,000 years. Why? Because it means that we as a people, we are still infants. our civilization. We are babies. So babies, they need someone to nourish them. And who's that? Well, the elites, the corporate elites, the political elites, religious elites, and so on. Imagine that people realized that before this cycle, there was another one which ended 12,000 years ago. That there was indeed the mysterious land and civilization of Atlantis, and then Lemuria, then Og, and so on, in the Gobi Desert, another one. People would realize that our history in the last 100,000 years only is cycle after cycle after cycle. Then they would be intrigued. Hey, what was happening then? Where were they? Technologically, spiritually, their level of knowledge. Then they would realize, hey, they knew the secrets. They knew that, they are indestructible because they had souls, and we have souls also, that they can live forever. So they would realize, hey, if I have soul, which is immortal, why should I be afraid of death or physical body? If I'm not afraid of physical death, I'm not afraid if I'm going to lose the job, if I'm going to lose the car and the mortgage and so on. So if I'm not afraid, I have no limits. If I have no limits, then I'm free. And that's a definition for the freedom. No limits, no fear. And imagine that millions and millions of people are free. They have their freedom. They're not afraid of the political governments. So no more control, no more manipulation, and the politics should become what's supposed to be, and that is the service to us people. So you see how the history is actually very, very important, and this is what we realize in the Bosnian Pyramid project. And when I mentioned the purpose of the pyramid energy, I did not tell you about one more, and this is effect to our spiritual abilities. We have our 5 physical senses, so we can sense our physical reality. And, we define our physical world based on those 5 physical senses. We can see, we can hear, we can taste, we can, touch. Well, what we can see is just a tiny little fraction of what was happening around us. We can see those 6 colors, we can see the range from red and orange and yellow and green and blue and indigo. But and of course, those colors have been kidnapped nowadays by LGBTIQ. But they are only 0.3% of the world around us. So we don't see 99.7%. What we can hear from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, that sound, we can hear only less than 1% of the sound. We don't hear ultrasound, we don't hear 50, megahertz, we don't hear gigahertz, we don't hear below 20 hertz, that's infrasound. If we could hear all of that, our world would look completely different. Now, besides 5 physical senses, Jimmy, we have 30 spiritual senses. We can feel the energies, we can see the energies, we can see the chakras, we can see auric fields. We can, we have potentials to communicate by thoughts. Telepathy is the spiritual sense. How do we think Egyptian pyramids were built? Where are the drawings? Where are the people communicating to each other? If you and I want to build a house, we need so thick set of drawings. If you want to build the biggest, structures in the world, you need a room full of drawings. There are not a single one. How do they communicate?
Let me jump in there for a second.
Yes,
that's one of the most intriguing parts of Egypt that I don't have the answers for, and nobody does. And one of the most important jobs, one of the coolest jobs in ancient Egypt was to be a scribe, right? If you were a scribe, you were the dude or the dudette, right? You had it going on. There are statues of scribes everywhere, just sitting there writing, right? They're everywhere. They documented everything. We've got beer recipes, we've got bread recipes, we've got taxes, we've got laws, we have music, we have everything. The little minutia of daily life, right? So plowing fields, building boats, whatever it is, it was documented. Everything except pyramids and the temples too, as well.
And the
It's
pyramids and
completely-
temples are the most monumental. You would expect
You would
that
think,
it would be millions of papyri everywhere
think,
talking
you
about
would
the
think.
process. Nothing.
You would think.
What
There's
does that
nothing there.
mean? It means they were built before those tribes. Before.
Now, I'm okay with that. And let me tell you why. I think this is important. I'm okay with that. They even Zahi Hawass. Okay, I know. Okay, all right. But even Zahi Hawass is in on the game. The video of him fighting with Graham Hancock, and I'm sure you've seen the video, and so they're fighting before a conference. They're doing sound check, right? And Graham goes blah 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 blah. Go Beckley Tepe, and Zahi. What is these Gobekli Tepe that you speak of? I know nothing about this. It's like, shut. You know everything about Gobekli Tepe. Don't say that. And to say that in such a what's the word? A lie. He's lying. He's lying. It's an overt lie that came out of his mouth. But they can't have what something that predates Giza that is proven, because it ruins their game. It ruins the dogma, and not that it's Zahi's fault. Not going to fault him, but the way that the British and Napoleon, when they rolled through Egypt and they started writing things down as fact, it never really changed. Right. It just kind of stayed the same, and that became Egyptology, and nothing was modified. Egypt was first. Even, they want to argue about Sumer, and Sumerian tablets and who was first. Right. It's just crazy town. And then we get Gobekli Tepe, and Gobekli Tepe wasn't supposed to exist. Right. And it just shows the world, Sam, that there was a whole lot that we still have to discover here. Right. Let's just keep learning. And it's fun. It's fantastic. It's amazing. Don't be in denial.
You are absolutely right. When it comes to Zahi, and he is there for a reason. He needs to keep this old narrative. But maybe it's good because people can see that he is not telling the truth. He hasn't been telling the truth for decades. And then people will start wonder. Obviously, Egyptian civilization is much older than what they are telling us. And we have proofs for that, so many proofs. When you take, for example, unfinished obelisk in Aswan, which is, according to Wikipedia, 1,250 tons. I've measured it. It is 1,450 tons. Our civilization in 20th century did not have a crane to move more than 250 tons. No. We did not have capabilities to do that. How would primitive Egyptian slaves, as they were saying until recently, move 1,000 tons? Of course, there is no way. They could not move even more than 1 ton, because when they made the replica of the whole journey, they cut 2-ton block in Aswan. They moved it, using the ropes, and they built a replica of that wooden boat. They put it on the boat. It sunk to the bottom of the River Nile. 2 tons. Right. They could move only 1. But how do you explain the largest stone block in Khafre Pyramid, which is 220 tons, or the largest in Khufu, 80 tons? No explanations. Right. So obviously some other methods were used. And remember when I stopped, I said the design process, probably someone with telepathical powers. And we did have those people living on this planet in the last 100,000 years. Imagine a group of 8 people or 50 people communicating telepathically. What should we build? How? Let's apply elements of sacred geometry. Let's see the height. Let's see the astronomical features. Let's consider calendar features and so on. And then they made the plan. How do they do that? Well, the levitation, which I mentioned, is the way to do it, to transport. What is the levitation? Our problem with the big tonnage is the gravitational force. And the way how our civilization deal with the gravitational force, if they need to move 100 tons, they do it in the most rudimentary way. We design crane which is 200 tons. So we fight 100 with 200. But this is just one way. Another way, how about we neutralize gravitational force? We have a little remote and we neutralize gravitational force and then we move it with a few fingers. And that's how Tibetans were building their temples on high cliffs without access road. What they would do, and we have that by two crews financed by National Geographic magazine at the time, 1950s and 1960s. Two directors, one from Sweden, one from Austria, they filmed it. How the Tibetans early in the morning, like 15 monks would be there with their classical instruments, and they started, playing the instruments, they started singing, they were doing it stronger and stronger and stronger, and at one point, the stone block of 2 tons, which was in front of them, lost the gravitational force. It started levitating, going up, up, up to the air, and 2 more monks, they were at the place where they were building the temple, they would move this block with a few fingers. So there are other ways. The levitation.
Yeah, there are. And I remember that experiment. So they didn't float the blocks in the air, but they lightened the load so that they could move very easily. When you walk up, most people, unless you've been to Egypt, you just don't get it. And I understand that. But when you walk up in Aswan and you look at the unfinished obelisk, right, and you stand there and you don't have an idea. You can see it in pictures. Pictures don't do it justice, right? You walk up and you look at that and you go, holy crap. That's the first thing that goes through your mind, right? Because it is frigging ginormous. Whatever ginormous is to you, it's twice that big. Okay, it's that big. And so anyway, you go and you go, what was the plan here? You can you can carve it. You can have those guys down there with those diorite stones pounding on it for 30 years, whatever. Perfectly, by the way. That must have been the worst job in the world. Just all day long on one spot, if that's how they did it. But you look over at the Nile from Aswan, right? And you're standing there. And the quarry's beautiful, by the way, everybody. It's not just one thing. It's a whole trip in itself. But you stand there and you look. What was the plan? How were you going to get it out of this hole and just set it to the side? What was the plan there? Right? Let alone get it down the hill, right? And over to the Nile and then onto the boat. Somebody tell me about a boat in Egypt that could displace 1,500 tons in ancient time. Somebody tell me about that boat, because that boat today is like a 400-foot freighter, right? That's a barge. That is a ginormous thing. He didn't have that in Egypt. So what was the plan? And I still don't know how they move the obelisk that they do have. That obelisk in Luxor, and it's not that far from. I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but this stuff makes me angry. You look at that obelisk in Luxor; it's huge. I think it's huge.
It's one piece.
One piece of granite, and you go up next to this thing. It's what 20 feet wide and 15 feet wide, and I don't know, 10 stories tall, 100 feet tall. I don't know.
It's 375 tons.
375 tons
and granite. But how do you shape granite? Today we use diamond tools. What did they have? They had only copper tools. And
chicken
copper
bones.
They did inferior. It's so inferior tools. You go to Eastern Lebanon, Baalbek. When I was there last time, 15 years ago, there was this block which is 1,400 tons. In the meantime, the German archaeologists, they were doing some digging. They discovered 2 more, even bigger ones, 1,600 tons. And when you go to all these websites, all these official, the historian sites, you read, well, that was a Roman temple of Jupiter. Well, yes, Romans were there 2,000 years ago. They were not shaping or moving those blocks. They did shape blocks which had 500 kilos up to 2 tons. How do you explain 1,600 tons? No explanation. So they simply close their eyes. It's a shame what they do in the history, and that's good to have independent research. And Jimmy, I'm coming next month to US, and there will be a global pyramid conference in Chicago. And besides me, I'll be talking 2 times. It'll be Mr. Dunn, Christopher Dunn. He will be talking, and I could see his title. He's connecting now Nikola Tesla's work to Egyptian pyramids. It's very important. But of course, we are the first one, the Bosnian Pyramid Project, who scientifically proved that we have this energy phenomena. And those of the listeners who wanted to come to the conference, globalpyramidnetwork.com, it's good that we have conferences like this one. It's good that people want to do independent verification of what was happening on different sites around the world, even the Mayan civilization. You read Encyclopedia Britannica until a few decades ago, they were saying they were on the Neolithic tribal level. What are we talking about? I mean, those beautiful, magnificent pyramids. The Mayan civilization built more than 100,000 pyramids, 97% still being hidden in the jungles, in the forests. What do we know about the civilization based only on 3% of their temples and pyramids and cities and roads and bridges? We are so ignorant, and unfortunately, archaeology and history, they don't help. That's why we need to open those sciences to experts from different fields. And I'm very happy to be part of that movement. And we have some independent researchers in the past, and they are good, but we need people who run their own project in an independent way, in very open way. You and I, we take groups to Egypt, we can see those wonders. We stop like in the front of the Great Pyramid of Egypt looking, wow, who built it? What was the real purpose? And I think this is very important because, like I said, some of the answers can help even our civilization.
You know what's crazier? Crazier to me? I'll just make a quick comment, then I want to talk about the tunnels in Bosnia. But to me, the Great Pyramid's cool. Afre, Khufu, Menkaure. Yeah, that's cool. It's cool. Sphinx is cool. It's cool. It's cool. I enjoy it. It didn't blow my mind like the Bent Pyramid did. The Bent Pyramid, because of where it sits in Saqqara, right? It's all by itself. Well, you have the Red Pyramid about a mile away up the road. But when you look at the Bent Pyramid, it's sitting by itself when you come, and you have to walk it's like a half-mile walk before you get to it. And you walk and you walk and you walk and you don't get any closer. And you realize how freaking giant it is. You know, because the encasing stones are still on the outside of it, it doesn't have the vibe that the Red Pyramid does, or even Dozier, right? The Bent Pyramid is big, and you just walk when you stand next to that, and you just see this. It takes up all of your vision. So does the Great Pyramid. They're about the same size, but that's not my point. It's by itself. There's nothing but sand. Right? There's no Cairo backdrop. There's nobody selling trinkets and camel rides and all of that. You're by yourself, right? It's just sitting out there in the desert. It is big. And then you go, why? Right? Now, when you went in, let me ask you this. I just want you to laugh. When you went into the Bent Pyramid, right? And you're on all fours and you're going backwards down that shaft. Did you feel like you were defying death? Was that the most dangerous thing you've ever done in your life? Tell me the truth.
Well, not the most dangerous, but it was really intriguing, especially after they opened these pyramids for the visitors. Bent pyramid, you are right. It is sitting alone, even though in Dahshur we have total of three, bent, red, and black.
Yeah,
But bent pyramid, it looks so out of this world.
it
And
does. It
especially,
does. It's
yes,
my
and especially, the question, why is it bent? And the explanation I got from the Egyptologists, it is like the bedtime stories. They started building it and they realized it was not structurally stable, so they changed the angle. I mean, those who are able to build such structures, I mean, they were not stupid. They would not make such a cardinal mistake in the half of the process. But the problem with the Egyptologists, archaeologists, even with the independent researchers, they don't have an engineering mind. If they do, they would realize that pyramids are all about the energies. Why am I saying that? Well, I mentioned the precision. Why is it important for pyramids to be precisely oriented? Nikola Tesla and many other physicists after him claim that everything is energy. And when you have energy, it's like our planet is a huge energy ball. You have movement of the energy, you have energy flow. Two strongest energy flow on our planet, and you can talk to your people next time you go to Egypt, are north-south and east-west. When you build four-sided pyramid and you perfectly orient it, it initiates the movement of the energy within the structure, within the pyramid. So the energy flows hitting 1/3 of the height. There's the place where the bent pyramid is bent. It is going to 2/3 of the height. This is the location of the king's chamber in the Great Pyramid of Egypt, coming back to 1/3 and then completing the circle. So it looks like the triangle and the circle within a triangle. This is how the energy moves within the pyramid. And this energy is beneficial. No doubt in my mind that those three chambers, so far that's how many we discovered, there are many more in the Great Pyramid of Egypt, they are located on the way of this energy flow. So it has always been about the energy. And the bent pyramid, look at the degrees. We have 52 and 43 degrees. 43 degrees is the slope of the red pyramid.
That's right.
52 degrees is the slope of the Great Pyramid of Egypt. So for me, it looks like somebody was experimenting with this slope. You have, 52, then you have 43. So the energy comes to this point, and then by changing the direction, changing the slope, they would make this energy move quicker. So they were simply energy machines. Another question is if they are active today. And I must say, I'm not very modest there, that I'm the first one proving that second largest Khafre pyramid is still energetically active. How do I know that? Well, there is a special equipment. It's called now New Energy Vision. Before it was called PIP camera, developed by our late friend, Dr. Harry Oldfield from the UK. With this camera, you could film, otherwise invisible to our naked human eye, you could film those bioenergy fields, energy fields. And in most cases in nature, those energy fields, they are horizontal. You have different fields, but they're all horizontal. Like if it is just natural landscape, if it is water, if it is sea, if it is forest, even if it is city, horizontal. But if you have an energy machine which gets this energy beam to the top, those energy fields, they become vertical. Why? Because energy from the pyramid hits those energy fields, they become vertical. Well, energy fields of the Bosnian pyramid, sun, moon, dragon, and so on, vertical. Khafre or Khafren pyramid, vertical. But step pyramid in Saqqara, which they assigned to the pharaoh of the third dynasty, Pharaoh Djoser, energetically dead. Something has happened. This instrument does not work properly no more. But the Giza pyramids, yes, they are still active. It's a shame.
Dozier, the step pyramid, in photographs, it looks dumpy. right? It looks unkempt from the outside. When you see it in person, you realize what a magnificent piece of art it is. It is a beautifully constructed. The pictures don't do it justice. And you get right up on it. Every stone, everything is just placed for this aesthetic value that is there. And you don't get it in pictures. People ignore it because it's not, perfectly, it's not. No, when you see it in person, you appreciate it. I was in awe of the Step Pyramid. But we're late for our break, so let's take that right now. Our guest tonight, Dr. Osmanagich from Dr. Sam, I should say, live from Bosnia. We're talking about pyramids tonight. We're talking about the Bosnian pyramids and pyramids around the world. More when we come back after this short break. Stay with us. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Please visit all of our sponsors. We're taking a quick break here. All of the links are below. We'll be right back. Join us November 10th, 11th, and 12th, 2023, live at the Luxor Hotel and Casino on the Las Vegas Strip, as Disclosure Fest Foundation and Fade to Black Radio presents Stairway to the Stars, a Human Origins Science and Technology Expo. With live talks, lectures, and workshops by world-acclaimed researchers and authors featuring topics like human origins, ancient technologies, indigenous teachings, workshops, a mass meditation, yoga and sound healing, music, and so much more. This is Jimmy Church, by the way, and I'll be your host all weekend long. Don't miss our intimate sky watch and meteor shower over the infamous Area 51 airspace in Rachel, Nevada, with special surprise celebrity hosts guiding us through the night. This event will sell out. For more information and tickets, please visit disclosurefest.org. Hi, everybody. Jimmy Church here. Very special announcement, and that is we are shipping Fade to Black T-shirts again. It's been almost 2 years. We did a full upgrade to the website, so you can head over to jimmychurchradio.com. It's all simple to do, and it's right there. Remember, we broadcast 4 nights a week, Monday through Thursday. We bring you the best, the brightest, the most knowledgeable and amazing guests, the best conversations. We do that 4 nights a week. We also do 4 days a week. We broadcast the news, and we do that live too as well. It's not a one-man show. I do it with website support. I do it with producers. I do it with writers and artists. All contribute to the show. The best way to help support what we do here is with the Fade to Black T-shirt. And you can get your Fade to Black T-shirt one of 2 ways. First, go to jimmychurchradio.com, order a shirt. It's really that simple. You're going to get a tracking number, it's going to get shipped, and it's going to get autographed. The second way to get a shirt is with a Game Changer membership. Now, the Game Changer membership not only includes a free T-shirt, but you get a private email to me. You get unlimited commercial-free downloads. You have full access to the website, and everything includes free shipping, and everything is autographed. So help support the show. Get your Fade to Black T-shirt today. The links are below. You can just go to jimmychurchradio.com, and it's right on the website. So there you go. I'm Jimmy Church, Fade to Black. I'm so excited that I just have one thing to say. Go Beckley Teppy. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right. Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church, and I still have this in the studio from last night. There's the new Fade to Black Michael Oeming T-shirts. Man, he makes me so handsome. Get yours now. And I think I'm going to sleep in that tonight. Yeah. Our guest tonight. Our guest tonight, Dr. Sam Osmanagich. He is with us. We're talking pyramids tonight. And Sam, if I can, I just called you Sam, doctor. I don't mean to be so informal. But Sam, I wanted to ask you about the tunnels. Now, are the tunnels, are they finished? Are the walls finished? Or what's that like going down there? Tell me about that.
Well, first, how come we have tunnels below the Bosnian Pyramids? Well, people don't realize that all major pyramid complexes used to have the tunnels. Not one level, but more than one. You and I, we go to the Giza Plateau, we have those magnificent structures, but below the Giza Plateau in Egypt, there are 4 levels of tunnels. They are not open for public. Why? And these are finished tunnels. Why they are not open? Because it's very obvious that they are older than 12,000 years. And then the whole idea about Egyptians, building it 4,500 years ago would be gone. Below the Chinese pyramids, when I was in the central province of Shanxi, I was the first foreigner doing the lecture about the pyramids in their archaeological institute in Xi'an. They informed me that every pyramid they have, and they got 250 pyramids, 20 of them, biggest one, the oldest, 12,500 years old. They all had those tunnels coming underneath, leading to the chambers. Pyramids in the Mayan world. I remember when I was doing my PhD, I said, like 20 years ago, that we were going to discover the tunnels under the Mayan pyramids. Until then, it was unheard of. And guess what? Under the Palenque pyramids, Palenque is in Mexican state of Chiapas, they discovered tunnels. When you enter the archaeological park there, to your right, there are like 3 pyramids. They discovered the pyramids under the biggest one, Temple of Inscriptions, and this tunnel going under other 3 pyramids, and then going under the whole Palenque, and now they are guessing it connects several Mayan cities around the area. Peru, the same thing, and so on. So, back in 2005, I'm coming to this town of Visoko. I see the pyramids. At that time, I saw 2. They were very obvious. I wrote the book, and in the book, I said that we were going to discover the tunnels based on my experience with the pyramids around the world. And then I was looking for I spoke to little kids, teenagers. They are the best source of information. Are there any caves, any holes, anything? They are showing me mostly the small caves. And then I came to this place, which they call Natural Cave. And then it was like about 40 feet long. That was it. But then I could see like the ceiling, which was very distinctive, half radiused, and it was filled with the material. I said, well, this is not natural. I brought my crew, we started removing this filler material, and then we realized that there was a tunnel. After 10, 15 feet, there was another one to your left, another one to your right. Then we discovered a drywall, another drywall, another intersections. Everything filled completely to the top. Now, the height, somewhere it goes up to 12 feet, somewhere 3 to 4 feet. So the tunnels, they go up and down, and later we realized why. They look like a sinusoid. It doesn't make sense for us. But when you have a closed system, then when you have a very low ceiling of, let's say, 3, 4, 5 feet, then the pressure to move the air is stronger. When you come to the area with a very high ceiling, the pressure is weaker. Stronger, weaker, stronger, weaker. Based on different pressure, you have the air movement. So the air moves even in the closed system. When you have one tunnel, it moves. But when you have hundreds of tunnels, and in our case, we do talk about the labyrinth, huge network of underground tunnels and chambers and intersections and underground lakes, then the air moves constantly. And the level of oxygen, 21% or 20.9%, is the same everywhere. You don't have like remote areas with the higher temperature, with the higher CO2. No, everywhere the same. So that was a genius how they did it. And the tunnels were built in the material called conglomerate. Conglomerate is the mixtures of pebbles and rocks and sand and the clay. So when they were digging the tunnels, they had to move hundreds of thousands of tons of pebbles and rocks and sand. What did they do with this material? Well, they ship it to the place where the pyramids were built. It's just 1 or 2 miles. They mix it with the melted clay, which they use as the binder, and they got the best quality concrete. Today, we use sand, we use cement, and the water. They use sand and pebbles, and instead of cement, they never use artificial materials like we do today. That's why we have problems. Cement, we have plastic, we have artificial rubber. Everything is artificial in our case. But in their case, they always use natural construction material. So it's direct link between the tunnels, construction material, for the pyramids. They were smart. They were first eco-friendly civilization, I can tell you that. So now we have a network of those tunnels. Unfortunately, all of them filled with the filler material. So what we do in the last 18 years, we've been removing manually the filler material. The tunnels go in all different directions, different heights. We cannot use machinery. Why? Because, equipment vibrate, and the vibration could cause the tunnels, to collapse. So we go slowly, but so far, the main tunnel that we call Ravne Tunnel, we cleared 2,200 meters, which is about 1.3 miles. It's sensation. We discovered 5 more tunnels, total is almost 2 miles. It's a huge job. It goes slowly. So when we remove the filler material, what we do, we put the wooden support for the safety. So it's a long process. It's very expensive process because of high humidity, 75%. We need to, change this wooden support every 3, 4, 5 years. So it's very expensive. But anyway, people go inside, they breathe so well. They realize it's a huge archaeological discovery, scientific discovery. It has energy properties. It has healing properties. And I started talking about the spiritual properties. It affects our spiritual abilities. So it's an amazing experience. When you go to Egypt, of course, you go to the Giza Plateau, you take the photos, you ride the camel, you go inside, you can't breathe in those tunnels, you have problems, and that's it. But in our case, you go to the tunnels, not once. People come for 3 days or 10 days. They go 5 times, 10 times. They go for the meditation. They feel the energy. They feel this air, which is so clean and so fresh, amazingly fresh under the ground. And, during the meditation, they relax. They think differently. It affects their spiritual abilities. They start thinking, hey, it's not only the physical world that we have, it's spiritual also. So in our case, it is the experience. Tunnels are experience. That's the big difference between our site and all others.
Now, what about that's just fascinating to me. And I think you said over 2,000 meters. That's a lot. That's
Yes.
6,000 feet.
6,000 feet, 7,000 feet.
Yeah, and Dozier, there's kilometers of meters. That's of kilometers of meters, kilometers of tunnels, and it's a crazy thought to see that, to experience it. You hear it, but then you go and see it. It's pretty insane. And now I want to talk about how they are covered. Okay, so we're going to talk about that because in China, they're trying to hide their pyramids, right? They're putting trees and dirt and grass, and they're trying to hide their pyramids. You see why?
Back in 1967, the Chinese archaeologist who was working on those pyramids, he came to the international conference in Japan, and he announced, hey, we have 250 pyramids, 20 of them extremely old. We found clay tablets with the hieroglyphic symbols, and he said that he partially deciphered the symbols. The pyramids were built 12,500 years ago, and who built them? He said there was a cosmic accident, and this spaceship ended up on our planet in China, in this huge plateau in central China, and they could not repair the spaceship. They had to stay on the Earth, and they continued tradition building pyramids. When he came back to China, it was 1967, they put him into the mental prison, and nobody heard about him no more.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Why?
Yeah, I was going to say why.
Yes, why? Well, officially Chinese civilization, 5,000 years, but the Chinese state, 2,300 years. Emperor Qin united 7 Chinese provinces into one country. He built the Great Chinese Wall. He started the same currency and so on. And now, because of pyramids, we need to go back for 10,000 years. So the Chinese government and Communist Party did not want to do that. So what they did with the major pyramids, they started planting the trees, wanted to show them as just the natural hills.
It's just natural hill. The best photographs that we have of the Chinese pyramids are the original ones, that were taken out of the airplane windows. Like, what's that?
It was 1945, yes, the American
1945.
pilots.
1945. And those are still the best photographs that we have of the Chinese pyramids. And that was an accident, Sam. It was like, what are those? And they started taking pictures, and they turned out to be ginormous, perfect pyramids before the trees were planted.
Yes, yeah. And then, of course, in the meantime, 1980s, 1990s, a lot of satellite photos, and then you could see groups and groups of pyramids of different sizes. And then today, when I spoke to the archaeologists, I spoke to the director of institute who actually he told me, on 5,000 different archaeological sites, tombs and pyramids and temples, very experienced guy. I brought him even to Sarajevo for our pyramid conference back in 2008. He told me that the smaller pyramids, some of them, they completely, cleared, and they found even archaeological remains, and they were dedicated to the Chinese generals and princesses from 2,000 years, from 1,000 before present. But the biggest one, they don't have permission to work on them. The Chinese government said they will not be investigated for another generation, which is 30 years. I hear some people talking the Chinese don't have money, like Hancock said that. Wrong. It is just the government who said, we don't want to change our history for 30 years, we won't touch them. So since I was there 15 years ago, so it's another 15 years that they won't be able to work on them. They just don't want to change the history, and they don't want people to hear, hey, it was not built by us, but by some other civilization coming from the outer space. So that's the main problem with the Chinese pyramids. And now, in the case of Bosnia,
okay. Before we run out of time, let me get this question. I have 2 questions. Yes. You can do what you want, okay? But let me get 2 questions. Yes. Have you climbed to the top of the Bosnian pyramid?
Of course, anybody can climb the top, because from the outside it looks like a hill. So people were climbing on the top. And the matter of fact, in the Middle Age, there was a fortress there. The Bosnian king would go there. They use it occasionally. So the 3 Bosnian kings had their small fortress, which they built on top of the previous ancient Roman fortress, which was built on the top of the previous Illyrian site 2,500 years ago. And all those cultural layers are on the top of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. So we were digging much closer to the base of the pyramid. It was much more convenient for us, removing the soil, finding those huge concrete blocks. But unfortunately, we can't touch the top because it is protected national monument because of the Middle Age fortress. All the tops are accessible, top of the sun and the moon and dragon and earth and love and the tumulus, you can climb there. And when you go there, because of this energy beam, people can feel different sensations in their bodies. They can, some people, they can feel the energy. And we had, because it's rather strong energy, we had some people just losing their, consciousness when they are there because the energy is simply too strong. So it's very, very intriguing location to be.
Now, how thick is the soil covering and the trees and everything else, the vegetation on the outside of the pyramid?
On the very top, not very thick, it's about 1.5 feet. But as you go deeper, because of the erosion and soil coming down, approximately half the way it is 4, 5, 6 feet. You go deeper, it goes to 15 feet. So, it depends where you're at on the pyramid. So it's really a big job in archaeology because you cannot use bulldozer to move the soil. You have to do everything by hand. And in the summertime, when we have our volunteers who come from all over the world, the soil is so hard. It's almost like a stone. So it takes a lot of time to remove the soil and eventually expose the structure, expose those concrete blocks. But it's very rewarding. Will
they eventually allow you or another, team of archaeologists to excavate a section of it and get to it to see where the slope is, for their own verification?
It's a complex story. When I started the project back in 2005, 2006, they had one very small area like protected cultural heritage on the very top. But people who were talking against me, they were all members of this National Commission for the National Monuments, Ministry of Culture, archaeologists, archaeological institutes, Department of Archaeology. So all these people from the branch, they were against me. So once we started working on the base, discovering, and we opened 20 sections, we call them archaeological trenches or archaeological sondas. Those sondas, they clearly produce artificially made concrete blocks. So what they did, they expanded this protected area for 100 times. You see, 80% of the pyramid, there's the government property. So we cannot work on government property no more. But where we did the work, it's so obvious that we have artificial structure. Now, the very bottom, there's private properties, but people already built their houses on the pyramid. It's a huge, this pyramid, when it comes to the volume, it's 10 times bigger than the Great Pyramid of Egypt. It's 2.5 times higher, but 10 times bigger in volume. It's so huge. It looks like a mountain. But once you start removing the soil, you are discovering, the walls, the cover of the pyramid. So if they're going to allow us or not, I don't know, maybe in the future, but we change the Bosnian history, we change the world history, and I know for sure that the English elites contacted at that time the Bosnian Minister of Culture not to allow us to proceed. So unfortunately, a lot of politics. If we could see everything they discovered, for example, under the Giza Plateau, it is said that they discovered, the Library of Atlantis. They discovered so many things, but they want to protect us because if they unveil that to the world, it would change everything. The religions would be gone and so on. So what? We need the truth. Science is there to help us reveal the truthful information, not to hide them from us.
Can I ask you really quick? How big is your dog? I mean, that sounded like a Russian wolfhound or some crazy.
My dog is it's a royal poodle. Royal poodle in the morning.
That was a poodle?
Yes,
What
but it's
kind of
royal.
poodle?
It's a big standard poodle. There are 4 sizes of poodle. This is the biggest one, and they are the most intelligent.
I think bark like a mountain lion. What are you talking about, a poodle? So I was watching, you're going to love this. There's a documentary. I think you can see it on Netflix. It's 3 parts. It's about, I'm going to get to pyramids in a second. I think it's called Pepsi, Where's My Jet? All right. Now it's a documentary about a kid that Pepsi was doing this contest, and one of the things you could do by collecting whatever and mailing them in, you could get a Harrier jet. Okay,
yeah, I heard about it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's a great document. It's amazing. But anyway, the kid in this was a mountain guide. Okay. So he would be, like a Sherpa, right? And so he would assist, rich people that want to go climb a mountain. They'd fly out and do their thing, and he'd be the mountain guide. And one of his clients was one of the guys that helped him get his jet. Right? That's a whole nother story in itself. But his client loved to climb mountains, so they'd climb mountains for decades all around the world. One of the mountains, that is impossible to get to is in Antarctica. So they go on this trip to Antarctica, and I'm watching the documentary. It's Pepsi, Where's My Jet, and things, and so finally they get to Antarctica, and they're there with the camera crew, and they're hiking up, and the cameras are showing this, this jagged mountain thing, and it's crazy, and it's beautiful, and it's high def, and it was just shot. It's incredible. Anyway, they take a break, right? Food and drink. They take a break, and the cameraman pans out around from the top of the mountain, and he goes like this, right? Pans around, and what's there? The frigging Antarctica pyramid. It's right there in high def. Now, so we see the Antarctica pyramid in Google Earth, right? You can go there, right? Okay, but that's not high def, and we don't have any real photographs of it. But the damn thing is in this documentary. It's crazy. And so, Sam, my point is, you see all of the geographical structures and the formation of the mountain that they're climbing, right? Looks like a mountain. It's any other mountain that you would ever see, right? Covered in snow, jagged peaks, all right? And they pan around, and then perfect pyramid. And so I stopped. I went, oh, wait a minute. There it is, right? So I stop and I freeze frame it, and I back it up, and I really look at it compared to everything that's around it, and everything that is around it looks natural, right? And then you have this thing, and it's just sticking up out of the snow, and it's perfect. It doesn't fit. It does not fit. That if that's natural, if that's a wind erosion doing this 4-sided pyramid, giant thing, where are the other ones around it? Right? Where are the other? Why is everything else jagged and misshapen? Natural. It's a mountain, and then you have that, and it's right there. So watch the documentary. It's in the part 3 when they go to Antarctica. Watch the documentary and go and see that perfect. Just in focus, high def with the sun bouncing off of it. It's insane.
Well, you are right. Mother Nature does not make 4-sided pyramids with the angles at 90 degrees at the corners. It has to be work of the intelligent hands. And shame that people don't have access to Antarctica. And, there is like a treaty of 30 countries that they only have the access there. But the history of our planet is so long, and we are just one of the civilizations. There are many before us. There will be many after we are all, gone for a very long time. So it would be wonderful that we can investigate those. We can independently verify information from those pyramids. But if you have four-sided regular pyramid, that's the work of the intelligent hands for sure. No way that glaciers or tectonic movement or the wind erosion can make something like that.
Yeah, and what about? I wanted to ask you this too as well. What about what's going on off the coast of Cuba? On the west side of Cuba. We've looked at those images over the years, and at the beginning, if you remember, you're the researcher, but it seemed like the Cuban government was okay with it, and they let it go. And then all of a sudden, right, they won't let anybody under the water there on the west side of Cuba. Do you think that is an underground, a real, man-made, something made, not of nature made, city complex? It looks like a town square, and there's a couple of pyramids that sit next to each other. What do you think of those formations?
Well, geologically, we know that there are two huge islands or two small continents in the Atlantic Ocean. The first one sunk, and the second one sunk also 12,500 years ago. And they are assigned to the Atlantis, mysterious civilization. But there is not only one period, but three phases, three periods of the Atlantis. And the second one, which lasted longer, on its western outskirts, it really was touching the Caribbean, and Cuba is part of the Caribbean. And I'm aware of those sonic scanning of the coast of the Cuba back in late 1960s, 1970s. And yeah, we've heard that there was permission at the first, and then Fidel Castro forbid any other activities over there. What happened there, I'm not quite sure. Is it possible? It is possible, because this huge piece of land is now at 3,850 meters below the sea level. We're talking about 12,000 feet. Small continent that sunk on the bottom of the Atlantic. Why? Because it was volcanic land, and volcanoes, volcanic land, they move up and down. So that had to be a huge catastrophe 12,000 years back. What happened there? It's very possible that one of the planets between Mars and Jupiter, there is asteroid belt nowadays. There was a planet, for some reason it got destroyed, and then huge pieces of rocks were hitting our planet, and once you hit the volcanic land, it is so delicate and it starts moving up and down. So it is possible that at one point this land was the surface and that there were cities. It is very possible. The same thing goes for the Yonaguni in Japan. You have at the depth between 30 and 80 meters. 80 meters is 250 feet. You got those perfectly shaped granite blocks, stepped structures, half radius, squares and so on. What happened there? After the end of the last ice age, the ice melted and huge quantities of water went into the world seas and oceans. Pacific Ocean went up for 250 feet, Atlantic 360 feet. In my neighborhood, little Adriatic Sea went up for 2,000 feet. I mean, these were huge catastrophes. The whole civilizations got destroyed. Tsunamis at that time were enormous. If you and I, we remember the tsunami that hit Indonesia, December 24, 2004. It was about 80 feet, this flood wave, 80 feet. It killed 225,000 people in Indonesia. The tsunamis back then were 3,000. Imagine, 80 feet, so powerful, and 3,000 feet. This is, the tragedies were on unimaginable scale. Volcanic eruption, earthquakes, tsunamis. They destroyed the civilizations from back then. And that's the reason why they are today on the bottom of the Atlantic floor or Pacific floor. And we think that we are the first one, that we are technologically the most advanced, that we are the most intelligent, that we are the most beautiful. Well, guess what? We are not. We are just one of.
Here's where most dogma falls apart when it comes to history. This is where it falls apart, is that you can't have it both ways. And I'm talking about the historians, the teachers, the universities and the schools. You can't have it both ways. On one hand, they want to portray us in the Stone Age as wearing animal skins and zero intelligence, right? Okay, so that's I want, carrying a club, right, and walking around. So you have that. And then on the other hand, they want to say, we're not giving Stone Age men enough credit. They were very smart. Now, you can't have it both ways, because when we look at Egypt is a perfect example, ancient Sumer is another perfect example, North, Central, South America, all perfect examples of this. You have Stone Age man and tribes living nomadically in the desert, digging in the dirt for seeds so they can eat breakfast, right? Okay. So you have that. And then the next day, they built the pyramids, right? It's like, wait a minute. Is it Stone Age man or not? And then if you back that up, and that's at 3000 BC, Sam, but if you back that up 7,000 years, 7 millennia behind that, not from today, but from Giza, 7,000 years before that, you have Göbekli Tepe. And I would argue that Göbekli Tepe is just as elegant and as beautiful and as sophisticated as anything else on this planet. So who built that? And where did the intelligence come from? Somebody has to be taught how to quarry, how to carve. What about the artwork? What about the cosmic side of it and the alignments and the things that are represented there? Stuff didn't fall out of the sky, or maybe it did. Maybe it was aliens, but it didn't fall out of the sky. It was taught from somebody before them. That's it. You can't have it both ways, can you? But they're trying to do that.
You are completely right. The Göbekli Tepe, when Dr. Klaus Schmidt discovered it back in 1995, he uncovered 3 circles with those megaliths, T-shaped, 3 of them. When he died, the Turkish government took over and they uncovered 3 more. So it's 6 that you can see right now. But when I talked to him 9 years ago, he told me there are probably 100 circles, 100. And it does not include other sites nearby. So, who was able to, like you said, design, shape, transport, install hundreds of megalithic circles? And the biggest one, it is not on the scale like Stonehenge, but similar. And talking about the Neolithic people, now they want to keep Göbekli Tepe in the Neolithic times, new Stonehenge. Not old Stone Age. But even, when you say Stone Age, it's a Stone Age. It's a people, like you said, covered by the, animal skins. Take just one aspect of Stonehenge. Besides the fact that we have some blocks that are 25 tons, gray stones and blue stones, they move them from wells 200 miles away, 320 kilometers and 360 kilometers away, over the hills and lakes and rivers and mountains. Well, when we see the original design of Stonehenge, they had 30 megaliths, uprights. They had 30 horizontal, 30 plus 30, 60. They formed a circle. Circle has 360 degrees. So 60 times 360, it's 21,600. Now, this is a very important number. 2 plus 1 plus 6, it's 9. 9 is divine number, the most major, the most important number in the world. And when you take the latitude of Stonehenge, it is 51 degrees, 10 minutes, and 42 seconds. When we multiply those three numbers, 51 by 10 by 42, it's 21,340. So it is not 21,600. But when we add 10 decimals after the seconds, so 51 times 10 times 42, comma, 332922333746, 10 decimals, and you multiply all of that, you're getting 21,600. What does that mean? It means, number one, that the ancients, they had the concept of full circle and 360 degrees. But it also tells us that they wanted to build the Stonehenge exactly on that specific location, which shows that they were much better engineers of geodesy than us. You go to Google, you look for the coordinates, they give you degrees, minutes, and seconds. That's it. They don't give you 10 decimals of 1 second, right? What does that mean? Also, it means that they knew the latitude. Now, the latitude is fixed. The longitude, they started from Greenwich. It was our invention.
That's right. That's a modern thing.
It should probably start from Giza, but that's another thing.
Yes.
But latitude, you got equator, and then you have those degrees going up. Right. Giza, 19 degrees, Bosnian Pyramids, whatever, 44 degrees, here 51 degrees. So that's a scientific fact. It means that they knew about the equator. They knew about our planet. They had their, flying vehicles for sure. These were the builders of the Stonehenge, not the primitive Neolithic communities.
Neolithic, New Stone Age is too loose of a term. And if you I'm talking about them, the man, right? If you want to stick with that idea, explain to me how those stones at Göbekli Tepe were quarried without metal, were carved in relief without metal. That upside down cat or whatever you want to call it, fox, whatever it is, on the, you know what I mean, standing on the side of that T-pillar.
Yes.
That is one of the most beautiful pieces of sculpture on this planet, done in relief in 3D, yes. 14,000 years ago. Come on. And just tell me how it was done. Was it done with chicken bones? Was it chicken? But it wasn't metal, or was it? In Armenia. Okay, two other places I want to talk about. So in Armenia, they have their own Stonehenge, right? Karahunj. It's called Karahunj. Did you know at Karahunj, which is dated to 7,000 BC, all right, and it, unlike Stonehenge, those upright stones have holes in them, okay? And you would line those holes up with the stone across the way and look through it, and you're looking at a star or you're looking at a planet. Depends on what you're... Now, Stone Age man is doing that, right? Where's the intelligence? And they have metallurgy at 7,000 BC. Oh, yeah, bless you. They have metallurgy at 7,000 BC. It doesn't fit. They have, and nobody wants to. That is such a big game changer. that they don't want to talk about that. And then let's shift. It's not Stonehenge. Stonehenge is cool. It's the Orkney Islands. It's the north of Scotland that is crazy town. Stonehenge is brand new compared to what's going on in the Orkney Islands. Stonehenge is brand new compared to Göbekli Tepe, right? And you go to the Orkney Islands, and we're pushing things back to, 8,000 BC. And I would say that those megalithic structures up there, and the settlements too, and the homes, were completely advanced. And it's 8,000 BC, and it wasn't supposed to exist, was it?
Again, completely right. When it comes to the tools, they are telling us that the Egyptian pyramids were carved with the hardened copper tools. Now, on a Mohs scale of the hardness, granite is 6.5. It's very strong material. And copper is 3. It is very soft. Inferior, you cannot shape quality, hard materials, rocks, with the inferior tools. I mean, that's logical.
No, you use granite to shape copper. That's what they right? That's the truth. It's the truth. It's the truth. You use granite to shape copper. It's not the other way around.
Exactly right. So for me, it's obvious that most of these places were actually machined. What kind of machine? Laser machines? I don't know. But some type of machines for sure. The same goes for Göbekli Tepe. It was much before the Middle Age, much before iron, much before copper. Like in Bolivia, you have a Capena pyramid complex. You have granite blocks laying around, so perfectly shaped. I mean, they were obviously machined. And some assign this site to 15,000 years. Even if it was 5,000, I mean, the only tools until 2,000 years back were copper tools. So no explanation. So, the science is so ignorant. I mean, first we need to admit, hey, we don't know. But it doesn't mean that we cannot research. Let's research. Let's figure out. Let's investigate. And we're going to get, to some answers. So, that's why we need to stay open. We need to be really students all our life. The problem with the establishment is people who are directors of archaeological institutes or faculties or departments of archaeology, history, they think that they got all the knowledge. The science stops with them. And then they become the biggest obstacles in science. I mean, after 40 years of research of megalithic and pyramid sites, I admit, I don't know the answers to major questions. I don't know who built Egyptian or Bosnian or Mexican or Peruvian pyramids. In most cases, we don't know when. We don't know how. Well, why? Obviously, in Bosnia, we are getting some answers as far as why. But then our scientific instruments, they are so limited. Maybe we don't even know what to look for. We don't have instruments invented yet for different types of energies or whatever. And like I mentioned, the Stonehenge, how did they figure out where to build it exactly? They knew what was happening inside our planet better than us. They knew what was happening outside better than us. Once you admit that, then hey, we can start looking for the answers.
Yeah, that's right. Well said. Sam, what's next for you and the Bosnian pyramids?
Well, we have a unique combination of archaeology, science, energy, spirituality, healing. And in the last 6-7 years, I've spent all my US savings buying neglected properties close to our sites, close to the tunnels, more than 1 million square feet of land, which was muddy, swampy, garbage everywhere. We've transformed it into one of the most beautiful parks in Europe. It has become the cultural oasis, the sport oasis, the spiritual oasis, with many festivals, fairs, organic food, yoga, meditations, book promotions, sport events. We built a top quality tennis courts. Novak Djokovic inaugurated them last year. So this is the place of non-discrimination. This is a place of spiritual peace. This is a place where people come, enjoy harmony with the nature. Everything is green around us. We plant so many trees and flowers. And this is about a new concept of life. What they are teaching us nowadays, transhumanism, where we are fully controlled by our technology and manipulated by political elites, we offer a different concept. We offer a concept of peace. People come, no social distance in our case. So, this archaeological project is much bigger than life now. So this is, I think, my mission in my life. Through the archaeology, we came how to apply the knowledge from the past to our civilization and offer different future for the young generations.
Thank you so much. I look forward to having you back on the show, and we can take this much deeper next time. And enjoy coming over to Chicago next month, and say hello to Chris Dunn, that man. Whoo, right. Thank you so much, Sam. Be safe over there. Have a safe journey over here, and we'll talk soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Great show tonight. Perfect conversation. Now, listen, Dr. Sam's websites, I've got the links below. We've got them over on our website, and we have them throughout social media. So follow what he's doing, and he's got 18 books out, and go and check those out too as well. And for me, now look, I've been traveling for the last 10 days. I came back. I didn't rest. I went straight into a week full of shows, but I finally have a weekend in front of me. So I'm going to go enjoy my weekend. You go and enjoy yours too as well. And we will see you right back here on Monday. Thank you so much. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Thank you to Dennis and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and this broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2023 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. I know I am. I'll see you on Monday. Go back, Lee Tappy.